Hi, so we are starting the session number 53 about liquidation process under IBC, specific focus on the IBBI regulations. Quick recap on what we have done in the previous sessions. We covered from regulations 26 to 32, where we talked about how do we deal with the debt in foreign currency, then how do we deal with periodical payments, debt payable at future time, mutual credits and set-offs. Then we talked about verification of claims, transfer of debts due to the claimants or creditors, then list of stakeholders, how it should be prepared, what should be listed there, and stakeholders consultation committee. Lastly, sale of assets is what we have dealt. In the sale of assets, we said there are two types of sale. One is by private treaty, other one is by public auction or any other mode. In case wherever required, the adjudicatory authorities approval shall be taken. This is what we've understood in the previous session. So going forward, we are trying to understand the balance regulations under IBBI regulations, starting with regulation 32A. So sale as a going concern is regulation 32A's heading. What does it mean? We need to understand that businesses are sold in two methods broadly. One is where the business is sold as if it is wound up, or it is not on a going concern basis. The business is stopped, the entity is to be liquidated, and then the assets are transferred to the other party. The second mode of transfer is where the assumption is that the entity is continuing its business and sale is going on as a going concern basis. So the current discussion is, if the liquidator so proposes to transfer a concern as a going concern on a continuous basis without seizure of the business or without seizure of the organization, then what is that one should do is given in regulation 32A. The liquidator may sell the corporate debtor as a going concern, meaning the entire business, its assets and liabilities is sold as one operational entity, and the acquirer who buys this entity will continue the operations with the same assets, same liabilities and the same business, or he may change some of them later. But idea is that the company, the corporate debtor, will continue its operations after the sale of the assets is completed. This is what is called as a sale as a going concern. The sale as a going concern can be carried out if it is feasible in the best interest of the stakeholders and will maximize value. What do we mean by in the best interest of the stakeholders and if it is feasible? Let's understand this, number one. So while I as a liquidator am proposing to sell the entire entity as a going concern, the buyer may not be willing to buy the entire entity as a going concern because there can be certain liabilities which are going to actually make the whole business non-viable. Therefore, the buyer would only want to buy those assets which are important to them. So in this case, if the buyer is only buying the assets, not the liabilities and the company, then it is not a going concern. Therefore, one has to really understand whether it is feasible to sell the entire company as a going concern with the assets, liabilities, with the business. Is somebody willing to buy? Only then it is possible, otherwise not. 2. Will it be in the best interest of the stakeholders? See, sometimes what happens is, when I as a liquidator I am going to break up the assets into different parts and then sell, maybe the value that I am going to get is substantial in comparison to a going concern basis, maybe where the value is lesser. So will it be always in the interest of the stakeholder to sell it on a going concern basis? No, may not be. Therefore, the liquidator has to check, number one, is it feasible? Number two, is it in the best interest of the stakeholders? And number three, am I going to get a better value for the assets of the company? Once he considers all these 3 points, then he should take a decision of selling it as a going concern basis. The liquidator may sell the debtor's business in its entirety or in parts depending on the circumstances. If necessary, the sale as a going concern requires the approval of the adjudicating authority, because in some cases the buyer would want certain reliefs which are written in the resolution plan or which are given in the acquisition plan. In that case, those reliefs which are sought by the acquirer cannot be provided by the liquidator. Hence, those reliefs, for them to be granted, an approval should be taken from the adjudicating authority. Only then the reliefs can be given to the buyer. So therefore, maybe in some cases adjudicating authorities' approvals are necessary. Feasibility is to be checked only when everything is in the favor of the stakeholders. That's when we sell it as a going concern. Coming to Regulation 32B, how do you conduct the meetings of the Consultation Committee? We said Consultation Committee basically comprises of the stakeholders like financial creditors, operational creditors, employee, workmen, and the outside stakeholders. So how are these meetings conducted? That is regulated under Regulation 32B of the IBBI regulations. First paragraph says, the liquidator shall conduct meetings of the stakeholders, consult